This is a small mountain creek coming out of the Ouachita National Forest. It's raining. It's July the 4th. Got some kayaks, fixing to do some fishing. The rod I'm using is a Shakespeare ultralight micro series. I think I've got 6-pound line on. I'm using this little Rebel chartreuse crawdad crankbait. Gonna go up this creek, see if we can catch some little bass. I would imagine I'm gonna get rain on my GoPro, so I don't know whether this footage is gonna be any good or not. Well, I'm down here fishing. It just thundered. I've got everybody yelling at us to get out of the water. So I guess I'm gonna probably get out of the water. Maybe we can come back a little bit later and do some more fishing. Headed back up to where this creek flows in, fixing to get out of this water because it is thundering a little bit, but I'm gonna take advantage of me being in the creek and try to catch a fish or two first. Oh, got a bite right there. Let's see what kind of fish. Looks like a little smallmouth. They don't get too big in this creek, but with this ultralight rod, they're fun to catch. I've always kind of thought these creek fish pull a little bit harder. My theory is that they're fighting that current all the time and they're just stronger fish. What we call these little bass are brownies. They got some watermelons in the creek. This creek is spring fed. They set the watermelons down there to try to keep them cool. Haven't heard it thunder in several minutes, so I'm fixing to hit the water again. Yeah. Good old Brownie. There are bigger ones in here, but they are small in this creek. Yep, that's fish. Yeah. Yep, they pull this little ultralight good. A little bit better one there. A little bit better. One thing that's cool about these lures that I have seen was that lure will be hanging out of a fish's mouth. I've had another fish come up and try to steal it, and I've caught them 2 at a time. Smallmouth bass, Brownie. Yeah, another fish on. Yes, sir. Oh, right at the boat, came off. Easy release. Look at the coloration of that fish. Take the GoPro off and get a better look at that one. Look at the coloration of that fish. That looks like a tropical fish. I believe that is called a long ear sunfish. It's got that little tab coming off its gill. It's a little bit longer. Obviously that's why they call it the long ear sunfish. Just a beautiful fish right there on the Rebel crawdad. Yes sir, there's a little bit nicer fish. Not too much bigger. I could tell he was a little bit nicer. I got my drag set real loose and he pulled it just a hair. I'm going to leave the kayak parked right here. I don't know if any of these holes of water will be big enough to hold any fish, but I am going to wade up just a little bit and maybe at least hit the next hole of water. See if I can catch anything on the way back. I love this view right here. Looking down that hole of water, and there's a mountain back in the background up there. There's another one right here. Yes, sir. Another one. All right. Dang it. Man, came off right at the bank, right at the boat. Actually just saw a largemouth swim by. I don't know how many fish I've caught today. This one looks like he may be barely hooked. Oh, he came off right in the boat. Right in the boat. I think I got my first largemouth of the day right here. If I get him in, he's fighting. Look at that, first largemouth of the day. Probably be my last one, I don't know. Largemouth bass. Well, I think that's gonna do it for now, guys. Rebel crawdad crankbait.